Hopefully this all works today. Still got lag going on though. Alright, it looks like I'm live, Chuck. Still got lag. I'm going to close out Skype, see if that helps. I do not suspicion that it will. I don't know what else to kill, but there's definitely some lag going on. Oh, Lord of mercy. Chuck, how we looking? You got sound? Oh, good deal. Alright, I got sound too. Not that I guess that matters, but I've got it. Hey, Epi, how's it going? Hey, Googleplex. 5x5. Good deal. We got a little bit of juice going. I don't know what's up with this lag, though. It's never done this before. Well, I did it last week, I suppose. It's probably done before and I hadn't paid any attention. But it's like I'm moving through the matrix. Someone needs to shoot at me. Alright, well, let's give everybody a few minutes to wander in before we dive into a random encounters. I love random encounters. Crossbow bolts, that's right. I might not be able to dodge anything. So, as my children tell me, I'm getting old. Alright, this is driving me crazy. I wish I knew. Epi, are you serious? What's he doing? I thought he was supposed to be in Washington doing something. These guys need to stay at work. Quit gallivanting around. So what's going on besides the Secret Service invading? Yeah. I don't know, wasn't it a couple, like a year or two ago, did someone rush the presidential cavalcade, like out of a tree line or something onto the highway? I can't remember. It was weird. So you never know. Oh, a campaign rally. Great. Great, it's election season. Yay. I think it's always election season in the States. So is everyone seeing my lag? Is it just me or is it everybody? I think next time I'm going to have to, yeah, Google likes that. That's for sure. We've got an entertaining political spectrum is what we do. Luckily, Americans just keep on working. We just keep on doing what we're doing and let Washington do whatever the heck it's doing and move on. All right, Epi, you're going to get us all in trouble. You're going to have the Secret Service all over the place. It's all being recorded, I think. Or something like that. Some poor FBI agent has to monitor Twitch all the time. Watch all these gaming threads. I hope he's a gamer. So just make life for him a little bit better. Now, that's good, Epi. I don't know what's going on in mine. It's driving me crazy, but we shall persevere. When I'm headbanging, yeah, it stretches my head all out. I don't know. I think next week I will reboot the modem before I do anything. Maybe my modem's got... I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Maybe if I just stay still and quit moving, it would be all right. But that's probably not likely to happen. Well, There you go. Put a bright spin on it, Chuck. Put a bright spin on it. On the weird matrix that we're fixing to enter. We'll give about another minute, and then we'll dive into random encounters. I like random encounters. I do them a lot. It's just a good way to jazz a game up quick. And too much planning and all that careful execution that we try to do as GMs to make everything work this way or work that way frequently hemorrhages, as you know, and it's good to just explode across the screen the scene sometime with just pure action. All right, well, let's dive into this stuff. As was just noted, we do this pretty open and freewheeling. If you have any questions or comments, just throw them in the feed there, and one of us Chuck will either let me know, or I'll see it and we'll respond, or what have you. We all GM a lot. We all have ideas that we bring to the table and things that we do. So whatever I'm rambling about here, I'm certain you've got nuanced things that you do similar or something, and we'd love to hear from everybody. It helps the whole shebang. It's funny. I think Jason Vey, our writer, one of our writers, posted something about hearing people talk about their player characters at conventions. And I've been doing this for 20 years now, so I've heard about a lot of people's player characters, their adventures and their players. And I love it. I have to tell you, I love it. I enjoy sitting there talking to people about their characters, because not only is it interesting to see how other people game, because frequently people game a little bit differently than I do, but it's also, it's like this a treasure trove of ideas. I mean, it's like a field of just of rich ideas that you can farm, because you'll see how other people are doing stuff and go, oh, hey, I like that idea. I think I'll bring that into my game. So I love that stuff. Keep it coming as far as I'm concerned. All right, without further ado, let's dive into random encounters. Now, to be specific on this, I'm not talking about encounters that are part of an overall campaign, that you may have a campaign that's going to run over 10 different games or whatever it is, and you've got some encounters that you want the characters to have. I'm talking about completely random. Either you rolled it on a random encounter chart and it's just there in front of you, or you want to do something a little different, or you need to do something a little different to jazz the game up. So it's something completely unplanned, something you've thrown together or are throwing together right there at the table and hurling them at them. So a true random encounter. I use these things a lot. In the old days, I still use them to do to kind of bring everyone at the table. If everyone's kind of distracted, someone's looking at their phone or whatever it is, a random encounter is a great way to get them back at the table, because they're rolling dice, and as I've said a number of times, anytime your players are rolling dice, they're paying attention, because that's the heart of our mechanic, no matter what system you're using. The heart is dice. I don't know of any other games that use chits or chips or what have you. Thank you for the subscription, Epi. Very cool. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I use them absolutely a lot to jazz the game up, to get people's attention, or if I'm kind of bored, or if I talked about that last week, if the game's dragging on me or I'm tired or something, there's nothing like an encounter to get everybody's juices flowing, and a random encounter is really the core of that type of thing. And I really am not talking about the riddle type where there's a trunk in front of them with a trap on it, or there's some magical writing on the wall or what have you. I'm talking about the blood and iron of an orc, kobold, a manticore, a griffin, a dragon, if you want to go that far with it. That type of encounter, something that's just bone-jarring, blood-splattering, iron-cleaving encounter. There's probably some magic in there too. I frequently forget magic is part of our game. All right, so the first thing that I talked about on random encounters, the first trick that I kind of threw out there, and this I use a lot, I hit them really fast. There's no warning. There used to be, I would pick a character and say, pick a page number between 1 or 110, whatever the page count was on the monster book I had in front of me, and whatever page number they chose, there was an encounter. They quickly learned that if I asked that question, an encounter was coming. So then I shifted to, and I think I talked about this a little bit last week, I shifted to just an extraordinarily explosion of violence, out of nowhere. You guys set up camp, an arrow strikes the shield, or you're walking down the path, there's orcs right in front of you as you turn the corner of a tree, this type of stuff. And it just hits them really fast. There's no preamble to it, there's no descriptive text to it, there's no warning. It's just suddenly they're sitting around eating popcorn, drinking Dr. Pepper or Mountain Dew or what have you, and suddenly there's orcs and iron and shields, and people are rolling initiative and trying to figure out what's going on. And that even adds, what's nice about that, and I found this even at my table, and there's a lot of veteran gamers at my table. I mean, we've been gaming, some of us, since 85, I think is when Todd and I started gaming, maybe 84. Even to this day, the explosive random encounter that with no preamble causes chaos and confusion on the other side of the screen, much like it would in combat if 5 people are on patrol and they suddenly get attacked. There's a moment of complete confusion as people are scrambling, trying to figure out what is going on, where the enemy is, who the enemy is, what their firepower is, what they're bringing to the table, and how to react to it. That takes about 5 or 6 minutes, and that chaos gets everybody kind of jazzed up. It's going to frustrate some. Some people are going to get kind of angry. Hey, you didn't tell us, or hey, this didn't. And I just wave it off. I mean, yep, well, this is the way it is. You got attacked, you were surprised, and here you go. And that generally you get past that generally pretty quick as it kind of irons out, but you've got everybody at the table and the thing is going. It doesn't have to be an ambush. It doesn't have to be something like that. It's just a random encounter. Something flies from above, something explodes from below, whatever. An ankhead, I think, lives underground. So with the tools at your fingertips, the number of monsters in any of these game systems, you can do almost anything. I mean, you just got to find the right monster for the moment. I think there was a question. So Chuck asked, is it best to usually base them on local inhabitants? How important is that? I always try to actually keep some kind of, because I play in the world of Erd, and Erd is a decently, it's a decently designed world with ecologies and whatnot, ecosystems that are kind of loosely placed in there. I try to keep the encounters so that it makes sense for the terrain that they're actually in. That way there's some logical consistency. If the encounter turns into something greater than just a random encounter, which sometimes it does, mostly it doesn't, or it doesn't jar them so much out of the setting that they're in that it makes them think, Katie bar the door, anything can be happening here. There's at least some kind of logic that that the players can grab a hold of. And as was pointed out to me years ago by a player, some players, and this isn't everybody, this is just how people play, whatever, some players like to actually figure their odds out. So all the information that's consistent is better for them, I think. So yeah, I would attempt as best you can to keep it kind of locally based. That said, if you take a creature like a wyvern, now I don't know the ecology of a wyvern or its necessarily its hunting patterns, but I do know that hawks cover vast stretches of territory, and they're very small. Minus the wing, a hawk is about yay big, and a wyvern's huge. So a wyvern's going to be hunting over vast stretches of territory. A dragon even more, a manticore even more. So you can actually kind of play with that quite a bit. It's so many of the real world scenarios that we want to bring into the game break down relatively quickly when you bring magic into it. I mean, so many discussions that we have in today's world wouldn't play at all in a fantasy world because there's magic, and it would change so much of that. That was hammered home to me in Gary Gygax's Living Fantasy, the 3rd volume of the GFW series, Gygaxian Fantasy World series, that we published back in the 2000 and odds. And he had a whole chapter kind of based on magic in real world scenarios. So it's really kind of cool to think of it. So a lot of things you can adjust a lot of things based on just the sheer magic and the type of magical predator that you have. An elemental can be really anywhere, this type of stuff. Let's see, so Epi says, folks forget that not every encounter has to be a battle. Depending on the actions of the PCs, it can lead to the addition of an unexpected NPC or an alliance. Absolutely. Now, that's one of the cool things about any of these encounters. Now, I'm kind of talking about battle-based encounters, but I would say frequently, but I have before these encounters have turned into major parts of the campaign. Sometimes I just want a random encounter, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. It's purely random. But sometimes it can seed some really cool adventures. And if you develop a really cool NPC or a really cool monster, give it a little bit of life, it actually can interact with the players. Maybe the players don't attack it. Maybe it attacks the players, they don't rescind, and there's some kind of conversation coming out of it. There's all kinds of things that can happen from a random encounter that can both detract, kind of correct, but can also really expand the game, like Epi's pointed out. Even whether that night's play or in later play. All right, so the first trick was really to hit them really hard without any kind of preamble or any kind of warnings that what's coming, just so that they engage. All right, so if I can remember how to do my overlays. Okay, so trick number 2 on the random encounter. I like to keep them short. So if you're playing a 4-hour game and your random encounter takes up 3 hours, it's really going to derail all kinds of stuff. Things that the players had planned to do in your overall game, goalposts that you wanted to reach, all kinds of stuff. So I try not to allow the random encounter to consume an entire night's gameplay. Occasionally it does. And particularly depending on your game system, some game systems are more complicated than others. I believe D20 had a pretty long, it's a great game, but its combat sequences tended to be on the long side. So a random encounter could really eat space up. But Castles and Crusades, it shouldn't. It's a pretty simple game, so you should be able to belt through it relatively fast. So I try to keep those random encounters short, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. Something that doesn't consume everybody's time and all of their energy. Primarily because it eats up too much game time, but also if it runs too long, players start looking for deeper meanings in things. And it's just natural that they should do that because they're going to start asking themselves, why is this encounter taking up an entire game session? What am I missing? And then they'll start thinking there's more there than actually you had ever planned. Now, kind of a side trick to this, and I've run into this a few times with Davis, because Davis is my brother, co-wrote Castles and Crusades, works for TLG. He's actually the main writer, the writer on the Kickstarter we're running right now, NPC Almanac. So what Davis does is he'll design an encounter, random or not. His monsters always have personalities. You're going to see this when you look at his NPC Almanac. Every player on the map, no matter how small, when Davis is running it, he creates a personality and a backstory for them very, very quickly. And this counts for monsters too. And I remember he was running an encounter with trolls, and you could tell we'd killed one of the trolls. It was a brutal fight. We'd killed one of the trolls, and you could tell he grew attached to his trolls. So he didn't want them to die. And the encounter stretched out over a huge swath of game time as we tried to kill the second troll. And as their personalities came out, some of the players didn't want to kill the trolls, and that created complications. Or however you want to do it, enhance the game, whatever you want to look at it. And that's what Epi was talking about a minute ago with creating new NPCs and alliances. But you could tell at the real heart of it, Davis did not want his troll to die. He just wanted the troll to live, which is cool. But I found it frequently for myself, it's best to just let the monster die. Don't get too attached to it. I ran a random encounter about a month or two ago. I think it lasted less than 2 minutes of game time. I can't remember what it was. It was pretty stout. I want to say it was 4 giants. I don't know. They're 13th level, so they're pretty powerful when everybody's at the table. But they cut through it in like 3 minutes. No, it was Whispering Devils from the Tomb of the Unclean. They cut through those guys so fast. It was absolutely insane. And I just let them die. They just died. It was the end of the encounter, and they were done. And then we went on with things. But if you do it, keep it short. It does keep people from kind of getting distracted. That, oh, wait a minute, there might be something bigger here. When really there's not. It's just a random encounter to get people jazzed up, to get experience, to get whatever. Oh yeah, Chuck, it was brutal. There was about 6 natural 20s, and at my table, if you roll a natural 20, you get max damage plus a D4, and they've got some powerful magic at this point at 12th level. It was just brutal. Absolutely hilariously brutal. Let's see. So Ingolf has pointed out, and let me read this here. In one of my last sessions, my players managed to lure a monster to attack other monsters they had avoided earlier. Those kinds of experiences with a kill-em-all solution helps to get a feeling for non-direct offensive solutions. My players loved it. Yeah, that's absolutely badass. That is really cool. When you get, because that takes what's basically a simple random encounter, and you evolve it into something that the players will remember for a long, long time. And that is just really, really cool, because it lets them kind of use, whatever skills and whatever they're bringing to the table, more than just brawn and magic missiles and fireballs. And that's a great way to GM it. That's a great way to do that. All right, so yeah, number 2 was just really keep it short and sweet. I guess that's what Chuck has on the panel here. We got any questions or... Okay, so Elisa Faden is doing the new Gaxmore maps tomorrow. Is that tomorrow, do you know? I'm not sure when her next one is. I've seen her latest. Gaxmore is shaping up into one just fantastic map. She's got it, the walls built, and she's done most of the work on the outside of that map. It's looking absolutely fantastic. And she's got a Twitch stream that she does, and she gets on there and I know she's got multiple projects that she's working on, but one of them is the Lost City of Gaxmore, and she's mapping that out for everybody. So check it out when you can. If you can't catch her live, then definitely catch her videos afterwards. They are definitely worth the watch, and her talent's through the roof, absolutely through the roof. Yeah, she is kicking ass. I'm really thinking we need to talk to Alyssa about some Eridian projects and some other big tent stuff. Maybe ends meet. Kind of like to see that done in that style. I don't know. Good stuff. All right, so let's, without further ado, let's ramble all into number 3. To kind of recap, we're the first 2 tricks are hit them fast, no preamble. Second trick is to keep it short so that it doesn't consume up too much of your game time. And with a kind of a sub note, let the monster die. Don't get too attached to your monsters. It is, after all, just ink on a piece of paper when it's just your random encounter. All right, so the third one. This is actually more difficult to do than one would think when you just kind of read what I was talking about. In the trick, I said, essentially, you've got to keep the random encounter random. You don't really want to tie it to, if you're running a campaign or if you're running an overarching, just, a continual series of games with the same characters. You don't want every random encounter. You don't want every encounter to have meaning, bigger picture meaning. It takes away a lot of the sharpness of a random encounter. It can't be that wild thing that just shows up. Essentially, as we know, just in the real world, as in anything, shit happens. Things go wrong. You didn't plan for it. You didn't want it to happen. It's just the way it did. And that's what the random encounter should be. So it's very difficult as GMs, especially those of us like myself who run continuous campaigns. The game I'm running now, we've been running since 2006, and there's overarching story arcs that these guys are involved in. I mean, there's multiple story arcs that these guys are involved in. It's a big game, and it's been going on forever, and it's difficult when I set up a random encounter to not kind of wedge it into the overall mythology of the game. But I try to keep that out so that everything that happens, the characters, the players aren't trying to figure out how it plays in the overarching campaign that we're running. Because everything shouldn't have meaning. Everything doesn't have meaning. Sometimes things just happen. It's just the way it is. It's out of your control. Someone else is doing it. Fate, whatever you want to call it. Shit happens. But so trying to keep your random encounter random is a good chunk of advice. Just hit them fast, make it quick, and make sure it's random. Now, that said, and this sort of plays into what Epi said a few minutes ago, there isn't any reason that this encounter can't resurface later. If they encountered some cool NPCs and talked their way out of it or fought their way out of it, or you really liked this monster that you couldn't let die or fled or whatever, it can come back to haunt later. I've done that. I've taken I've taken in random encounters from a year ago, and I did this not long ago. I was kind of just thumbing through my notes, and I found this encounter that was literally just notes, like my notes are horrible, but had a name of a female, an assassin, and I thought, you know what? They encountered this woman in Freiburg. I think Freiburg. I'm going to have her just come back, and so I kind of have this other small story arc kind of rolling with her. It's just kind of, you can do it, so keep it random, but with the idea that anything can happen. So maybe later you bring it in, distance it from the game that you're running, so that they don't really get hung up on studying everything that you're doing. Then also, as a side note, that goes for NPCs too. I learned the hard way. Bring in a lot of NPCs that don't have anything to do with the game. They're just people that the characters meet in a tavern or on the street, or have some piece of knowledge that they pass. Because if you don't do that, then they're going to start, every time you do an NPC at the table, they're going to start asking questions, thinking that this NPC has some pertinent information, and everything becomes a treasure chest. They got to study it, they got to talk to it, they got to do all this stuff, when really you were just trying to, role play a bartender selling them a beer or something like that. So same with the monsters, keeping it random, keep the NPCs random too. It's just kind of a good way to do it, with always your overarching campaign idea in mind, assuming that that's how you play. A lot of people don't play that way, and that's great too. Perry, the map of Gaxmore, yeah, absolutely. It's looking cool. I like the originals, but this one is just going to blow everything out of the water without a doubt. Let's see, nothing like the look of surprise and fear when they have one somewhere safe, like a market. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's cool, and it can go from something as simple, someone trying to pick their pocket and running into a guardsman, which tend to happens more often than not, or a bar fight. I think the funniest I ever did, this was years ago, and we started a game, and everyone had a first level character, and Todd was describing his character. Todd really likes character descriptions, and he really gets into his character's description, and right in the middle of it, I had someone punch him in the side of the head with a mug of ale, and this barroom brawl just exploded around him. It was fun. It got Todd, well, he's kind of mad, but it got Todd fired up pretty fast. So yeah, entering their safe spaces and knocking them upside the head is, it gets their juices running. It's the ultimate definition of a random encounter, I suppose. All right, unless people have questions, I'm going to ramble on to number 4. Trying to get my panels. Actually done 3 of the 5 panels this time. Slightly amazing. Needs more gnomes. Lord have mercy. I cannot get gnomes. I sort of settled them in Aird. Sort of made them kind of their own thing, but gnomes are not. I'm not sure what I did. There was Chuck, something said piano 715 something, and I hit X. I think I might have banned them, or did you ban them? I'm not sure what's going on. I'm going to leave that to you. You're moderating this. I don't know what's going on. Okay. I just X'd it. I didn't know. I couldn't see something on the screen, so I couldn't see what's going on. So to kind of we're talking about random encounters. We're on our 4th trick. First one's hit them hard, keep it short. Third one's keep the encounter random. Now the 4th one's probably the hardest to impart. I know Chuck tried to put a hey, Jason's arrived, good deal. This 4th one Chuck tried to make an actual formula for it, but I told him don't do that. That makes it too scientific, and this is anything but scientific. Trick number 4 is anything but scientific. Yeah, Chuck, I don't like formulas. You should have, in the old days when we wrote the Castle Keeper's Guide, even with the Siege Engine, when Mac and Davis developed the Siege Engine, they had this huge formula. I mean, it was all over the place. Well, I remember it huge. It could have been 3 numbers, and it would have spooked me. But I said, we're not publishing that anywhere. I don't want anyone to ever see any of that. I mean, I haven't seen it in years, but because that's too. It looks. I know the Siege Engine is crazy simple. If you play CNC, you know that the game is insanely simple, but that equation looked too It looks much too complicated. So when you sent that formula over yesterday, Chuck, I was looking at it going, I didn't even know what you were talking about. So this trick number 4 is really, balance. Yeah, Perry's right. Balance is borderline meaningless. So, but when I do a random encounter, I do have a very kind of loose guideline in my head on the hit dice of monsters to throw at them. Now, this is so loose because you've got to quickly take into account their armor class, their abilities, and their numbers. So if they got a whole lot of abilities and the ability to attack a lot of characters simultaneously, that should certainly change the number of monsters at the table and so forth and so on. But very, very roughly, I will have the monsters' hit dice equal to the characters' levels. So if the characters are 3rd level, I will generally look at 2nd to 5 hit dice monsters to fight them. Now, that breaks down if there's like 6 characters and I find a monster that's got a 10 hit dice, then I might throw that in there. But you got to keep in mind, and this is the factor that frequently people forget, if you have less monsters with a higher hit dice, that monster is probably going to have a higher AC and definitely going to have a better chance to hit the characters. So the characters, even though the monster hit dice is 10 and you've got 4 3-level characters, which adds up to 12, so you've roughly got your balance of hit dice equal to monsters, your monster's going to do a lot more damage than your players are going to do. They have the advantage of numbers. They're going to get more swings than he has, so forth and so on. But you got to be very careful because that can obliterate a party really fast, getting a too high of a hit dice monster. So on random encounters, I try to use standard monsters like orcs and ogres and giants and things that are going to attack with numbers as opposed to single creatures like a dragon or something like that. Even a wyvern, you can put 4 or 5 wyverns in there against a 7th level party, and it's going to be relatively decently balanced. But again, that's really you're really talking. It's kind of a tough call to make, and the next trick shows you how to kind of mitigate all of that as you're kind of tumbling through it. But try to make your hit dice roughly equal to the level, and try to have about twice as many monsters as you do characters. So if I've got 4 humans 1st level, then I'll have 8 to 10 orcs coming at them. 1 hit dice or 2 hit dice, I can't remember what they are. And that's kind of a balance down. Mostly your character's going to do more damage than your monsters are. Not always, but mostly, especially if you kind of keep your encounters kind of stagnated. Stagnated is not the right word, but equal, I guess. So it's very, very difficult. That's why I didn't want Chuck to do a formula on that, because there's no real formula you can do. There's way too many variables, way too many variables. So I just very, very roughly try to keep the hit dice equal to the level. Keeping in mind, if you're going to go high hit dice to equal a bunch of lower level, just keep in mind that they're going to have a chance, the monster's going to have an extraordinary chance of hitting the characters, and they aren't going to have as good a chance of hitting the monster. Especially in Castles and Crusades. Now, I cannot speak for any other game system, but in Castles and Crusades, that monster's bonus to hit is equal to its hit dice. So if you have a 14 hit dice monster fighting 4 4th level characters, he's going to probably hit every time because he's minimally going to get a 15. He's going to roll a 1 and plus 14 is 15, and he's probably going to hit. So I try to keep that. On random encounters, I try not to have monsters that are too high in hit dice for that very reason. Keeping the random just simple. CNC can bring the brutality. And I've tried to mitigate that somewhat in the creation process of having monsters with higher hit dice with kind of multiple AC, so there's a better chance to hit them. But it's just too tough, because then you get into a high hit dice monster designed for a high level party, and they just obliterate it, very quickly, like my party did those Whispering Devils a couple of weeks ago. Let's see, I might have missed some stuff. We have a new Discord server. Yeah, so Chuck posted a link to our Discord server. Definitely check that out. It's getting ever more busy. Hey, I like that Dr. Pepper can. Man, I need a Dr. Pepper right now. Let's see. And Ingolf says the same goes for non-random encounters as well. If it were all about killing the PCs, it would be. Yeah, that's true. You know, I've been accused sometimes of hammering characters. You know, and I have at times. I've made the encounters very, very difficult. We did one about 6 or 7 months ago that was extremely difficult, and the party everyone got killed but one person. Todd's the only one that managed to get out of it, and he only got out of it because he had some magic tucked away that he was able to use. But at least with the non-random encounters, you can kind of plan. You can look more carefully at the creature's abilities and his stats, his AC and whatnot, so that you can plan out whether it's going to be able to hit too easily, or if, on the other side of that coin, if you've got too low of an armor class on that monster, the character's going to cut through it too quickly. But the non-random encounters allow you to plan it a little bit better, so you can kind of pick what's going on. Pick the monster that fits what you're wanting to happen in the challenge level. Random encounters that you haven't planned for, or that they certainly haven't planned for, a little bit different, because you gotta come up with something very fast. Open the page. This is the monster I'm going to use. This is what we're doing. Have more of them, have less of them, however it is, to kind of help you balance out somewhat. But all of that's going to lead into trick number 4, and this is where I do some of my most fun behind the screens DMing. Let's see if I missed anything here. Let's see. The HD equals BTH is an element of old school play that should never have been abandoned in later iterations of fantasy play. Yeah, that's the thing. It's that hit dice is crazy important when you're. And Jason's right. When you're running monsters, the more complicated the game, the more difficult it is to do. And it's so if you don't know off the hand, I can look at in CNC, I can open it and I can look and I know immediately what my base to hit is because it's the hit dice. But like in AD&D, you had charts, right? You had to go to a chart and see what the monster could hit based on. No, it was hit dice too. It was hit dice too. Yeah, because his hit dice was on the left. Yeah, so it's by your game system. Just understand that you may have to adjust a little bit more than systems like CNC that are a little bit more streamlined. Let's see, and it adds a bit of toughness to the baddies. All right. Let's see, no chart to throw something down. You're getting there, Jason. If I can get there, Jason, you can get there. So with this formula that I use to develop a random encounter, this kind of leads us into trick number 5, and this is something I do this for random encounters and non-random encounters. I do this a lot, and it's one reason that I advocate that you should have a screen up at all time, because when you do this random encounter, when you hit the party really, really hard, you may find, 1 minute or 10 minutes into this encounter that, holy crap, I'm fixing to kill this party. And it's nothing that they did stupid. I know people always like to say characters don't get themselves killed, or GMs don't kill characters get themselves killed. That's not entirely true. Sometimes the dice just don't work. The monsters are too powerful. There's a whole bunch of mitigating, circumstances that go into there that can change the outcome of a combat. And if it's a random encounter, especially in a planned game, it can utterly and totally derail everything for no other reason than your desire to get the game kind of jazzed up for a moment, or get the players to focus, or what have you. So behind the screens, I am a very, very, very I advocate all the time to change what you're doing midstream. I do this, and this is one reason that I use orcs and in these random encounters. I use humanoids in these random encounters a lot, is because I can change their armor class willy-nilly. And AC is insanely important, because if it's too tough and they can't hit it, then they can't do damage, they can't kill it. So I'm constantly ratcheting down armor classes. Sometimes I'll ratchet them up if I need to, if I need the encounter to go a little longer. Hit points I'll change in a heartbeat. For the longest time, the characters that I'm running now, I didn't max hit points, but I kind of had every hit dice was at 7 and 8, so there was more hit points at the table to make it a little more challenging, because there were so many players that they were cutting through everything fast. Well, I discovered that that broke apart when we lost a couple of players for whatever reason. They had to go whatever direction. I was still giving max hit points, but I had less players, and they were getting hammered pretty good, so I just ratcheted it back down. I actually started rolling at that point as opposed to just picking because the hit dice are too high. I can't roll that many d8s. That's too much adding. But I adjust constantly, and that's what I recommend that you do on these random encounters. Just adjust it. If they're not killing them fast enough, drop their AC 1 or 2 points. If that's not reasonable or you can't do that because it's like a manticore or something that's got kind of a set AC, drop their hit points. Just knock off 20 hit points. It doesn't matter. No one on that side of the screen knows. You know it, but it doesn't matter. Your random encounter wasn't designed to kill the party, and it wasn't designed to do anything other than to get gameplay going again or for whatever reason. And if you don't want it to annihilate the party, then don't allow it to. Adjust as you're going. I mean, there's a bunch of things you can adjust. The other thing that I do, and this can go with animals, with magical beasts, with humanoids, with any kind of encounter, I'll just bring morale into it. So if there's 7 of them and they kill 3, but I can see that this battle's not going to end well, but I don't want to kill the party, the Manticores flee. They just take the wing and flight. They lost 3 of their number. They don't know how tough the characters are, so they just leave. So use morale, change the armor class, change the hit dice, not hit dice, change the hit points, and hit dice too. Honestly, I mean, you can. There's no reason that one Manticore. You're the game master. It's your game, and it doesn't matter what system you're playing. If the one Manticore, if its standard hit dice is 9, which I think it is in CNC, have a smaller one. One's got a hit dice of 5. It doesn't matter. It's your game. Run it, and that's why with the screens nobody can see what you're altering back there, and that injects a little bit of chaos to the game anyways, which is never a bad thing as people learn how to do stuff. What did that unicorn? I think I missed something here. He can be a meanie. Oh. There you go. Have a pack of little manticore babies attack them. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that you can do as a GM to shift the encounter in whichever direction that you want it to do. Did I miss a question? Do y'all ever plan to come to North Texas RPG Con? You know, we went, and Tyler went once in 08, 09, something, I don't know, and then Todd and I went a couple of years ago. We always intend to, but last year we were going to go, but I think it fell the same week of Origins or 1 week before, something like that. It's very close to Origins. And since we had to cancel, I chose to cancel Gen Con to pull that off of the roster. We were going to go to we looked at going to Origins instead, and we went to Origins next year. I haven't decided what I'm going to do about Origins this year. The show is big. It's got a lot of attendees. But there's a level of chaos at Origins that I don't appreciate. So I may or may not be there. I haven't decided. I got to decide that soon. If I don't go to Origins, then there's a good chance I'll be down at North Texas. North Texas is right in our neck of the woods. It's 5 hours away, so much easier. And I know Tyler would love it. I know Chuck would love it. But I'm not sure about Tim. I don't know if Tim would like Dallas or not. Maybe. There you go. Well, that's, now that's part that, right now he's stuck in, where is he? He's in the Bay Area? He's in California somewhere. He's on a balloon ride yesterday. I don't know what he's doing. He's not here. Yeah, Jason. Yeah, you got it much easier to both the Origins and Gen Con than we do. No matter where we go to Game Hall. I got to go to Game Hall in 2 weeks. It's about a 12-hour drive. I go to Gary Con. It's about a 12-hour drive. I go to Origins, it's about a 13-hour drive. I go to Gen Con, it's about a 12-hour drive. Maybe I should go to North Texas. That would be a 5-hour drive. It would break the half-day journey no matter where I go. And sitting in that truck, man, all these trolls. It is what it is, I guess. Yeah. Jason is sort of centrally located. Yeah, Epi, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good drive to a con, 15 minutes. I think we got Arkansas. There's some kind of convention here in Arkansas on the 9th. I can't remember what it is. Whatever it is. That I'm going to. So that I'll have a 15-minute drive to that one. So that's good. But at any rate, so I think that covered all 5 tricks. We went over random encounters today. We hit the first one, hit them fast. The second one is keep it short. Third one is try to keep it random with the idea that maybe you can develop it into a bigger campaign arc. The fourth was really just kind of a balancing act. Hit dice equal to level, maybe twice the number of monsters. That was the formula. I see it now. I see it, Chuck. I see what you got there. I understand it now. Maybe you put that into my head. And the fifth one is adjust it as necessary, which I pretty much say all the time with everything. Adjust, adjust, adjust. You're the GM. It's your game. Run it. Own it. You adjudicate. Make it yours. Once you've kind of gotten into that habit of doing that, your players are going to have a lot more fun because you're going to be able to adjust the game as you need, the story or whatever it is that you're doing. Doesn't mean people don't die. People die at my table frequently, infrequently, but they die. But it just makes the game a lot more fun. Archon, that's it. Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Epi, come on up. I believe I'm running a game. I don't know. I think I am though. I'm not going to swear to it. But I think that covers the 5 tricks of the trade. We've got the next one in the queue. It'll go out on Tuesday, I believe, and I'll be back here next Thursday at 1 o'clock doing another channel. We'll have Tim back on board at that point. He'll be back from his California vacation. And just as a quick plug, we've got an ongoing Kickstarter at the moment, the NPC Almanac. It's being designed for Castles and Crusades. That's our game of choice, obviously. That's what the Trolls do. But go over to if you don't play CNC, and that's great. There's lots of great game systems out there. If you don't play CNC, go over Kickstarter and check it out anyways. You'll find out that a lot of those NPCs you're going to be able to use in any game system whatsoever. You may have to tweak it a little bit here and there, especially the class-based ones, but all of those non-class-based NPCs, and there's a lot of them, they're just, you got to hit dice, and a hit point. It's not even a hit dice. You got to hit points and an AC, which is going to translate to almost anything. So check it out. If you're not interested, great. We'd appreciate the share. And as another plug, Jason Vay's got, now Jason, for those of you who don't know, he wrote Amazing Adventures, our second biggest line here at CNC, and he heads up all of our Dungeons & Dragons material, the 5th edition stuff that we're rolling out. He's got his own Kickstarter going on, Night Shift, check it out. It's still got another couple weeks. NPC Almanac's got 20 more days, I think, something like that. So a couple Kickstarters to check out, and I think that's it. Chuck, is there anything else we need to tackle? Ingolf, do you have any questions? I'd love to talk about it if you have any questions about it. Yeah, no problem, Jason. Yeah, it's going to have, I'm super excited about this thing. Now, when I first came up with this idea, and it's not that it was an original based off of a book that I used a lot in my AD&D days, The Rogues Gallery. Love this book because I use NPCs so often. I could just dive into the Rogues Gallery, and I had name and some stuff that I could throw out. So I've been wanting to do this book for a long, long time. We hired Kim Hartsfield to do it. He had personal things come up, and he couldn't finish it. Then I dove into it a little bit, but Tome of the Unclean and Adventures Backpack Derailed all work on that. And now I'm on to the Alftrack stuff and the Gods and Monsters stuff. So Davis, freeing up his schedule, took it over, which is honestly, and I'm not just saying this, this is Davis's NPCs, until you've seen them, if you've bought any of the Inzaya material, Barrack Holt, by Shadow of Night, Dens of Iniquity, they are just chock full of NPCs, so many NPCs, and every NPC's got a background and a history and a personality and all this stuff, and they're really cool. I mean, it really is fantastic. So he's the natural fit for this project, and he has been hammering away at it for months now. It'll have over 3,000 NPCs. It's going to have a whole 100 of every class that's just a kind of a line of information, and then it'll have 10 of every class that's very detailed. It's got background, personality, and then one of each class that has that particular character over 10 levels. And then that's the class base, and then the non-class base, your bartenders, your barmaids, your waiters, your stable boys, your armorers, your sages, I don't know, there's like 40 or 50 or so that he all of those will be fleshed out, in kind of 2 to 3 paragraphs of personality and whatnot. Fantastic stuff. Just a resource that you'll be able to use for forever and a day. The bigger pledge level actually comes with an engineering NPCs book that's going to allow you to randomly generate NPCs. So all of those things are fantastic. I'm super excited about this one. We've blown through all of our first stretch rewards, and we're on to the next round, which is called Building Bergman. And basically, for every $1,000 raised, we're going to build a little section of this town and put NPCs in it, occupy it with NPCs. And these will be fresh NPCs that aren't in the text itself. Now, they'll all be in the same book, but so it'll be new NPCs, I should say. So hopefully by the time we get through that, we'll have an actual village with a tavern, the one stop, and patrons, and all the occupants of the area that you guys can use at your table for whatever, to start games, to jam into the middle of a game, whatever it is. Super excited about the NPC book. It's been on my desk for a long, long time, and we're finally getting to do it, and just super pumped. So definitely check that thing out. Let's see, we had a quick question on some other Kickstarters. I guess I can do a quick breakdown. Let's see, Jason, on the Amazing Adventures 5th edition one, I believe, and Jason just said this, but I believe that we're done editing. Jason just needs to write a couple of fiction pieces for the intro sections for the main book. As soon as he's done there, in about a week or two, that goes right to Peter Bradley for layout. Peter's done most of the work, is colorized. We'll do the layout and get that digitally to backers, I think, relatively quickly. It's not going to take Peter long to lay it out. He's kind of already got his framework ready. He's just kind of waiting for the text from us. So that was doing great. We got Dens of Inequity. The boxes arrived yesterday. I haven't looked at them. I haven't assembled anything, but we've still got to get covers for one. I think a Princely Heritage needs to come in, but I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks those things are rolling out to backers. That one's all but done. And then the C&C Classic, all the digest books are done, been done for a while. The boxes are supposed to get proofs. I got a bill. I'm supposed to have proofs yesterday. I need to check on that. For the boxes, all 7 books are at the printers. So I'm hoping by late next week, just before Game Hole, we get those books in the boxes about the time I'm in Game Hole. And that leaves us only Egypt, I think. Egypt and Gaxmore, I guess. So the Egyptian book is at the editor. The editor is taking a long time to do it. I told him that's fine. He's being very careful. The text is kind of dense, and it's a lot of Egyptian mythology, so he's trying to make sure it kind of weeds through very carefully. So it's still at the editor. Meanwhile, Peter's done some art for it, but Zoe's doing the bulk of the art for the interior of it, Zoe DeVos, and I know she's finished one piece, and she's working on the next 11 kind of all simultaneously, so she's got chunks of that. She's got chunks of that everywhere. So we're looking good on the Egypt stuff. All of it, we're rapidly moving to closing out the Dens of Inequity and closing out the classic thing, and getting 5th edition AA and Egyptium on their way to layout. So super excited about all these projects. Lots and lots of stuff going on. Ingolf asks if the NPC Almanac come with plot hooks and ideas for the NPCs. Absolutely. So, let's see if I had one. Hold on just a second. I got something here from Davis. So, we got to figure out how to lay it out. So, there's 3 types of NPCs going to be presented. 2 types, class and non-class basis. And each will be presented in 3 different ways. There's the short, the standard, and the long. Now the long, there's not going to be very many of the longs. That's where we take one class-based NPC and present that one as a 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 10th level, so that you can use that same NPC over time. Love that concept. Really cool idea. The medium or the standard ones, it basically gives you a very brief stat block, just of hit points and hit dice and armor class and what have you, and then the descriptive text of what they look like, where they come from, and their personality traits. And occasionally Davis is jammed in a hook into those. Davis can't hardly write without putting adventure hooks. And then the shorts, like I'm looking at this one here, and there's going to be 100 shorts of each class-based NPC. So from Castles and Crusades, that's 24 classes, so that's like 2005, whatever. It's a lot. Math is not my friend. So I'm looking at this sheet here. This is just something he's been wanting me to look at for a while. And it's got the name, the sex, personality, and hook. So I'll just read you some hooks, the first 10 hooks. Knows of humanoid layer, companion enslaved, seeks traitor, has seen a dragon, was once a mercenary, seeks lost treasure trunk, betrayed by companion. So even on the shorts, we're going to have something in there for you to latch on to and kind of build your game off of. So it's, I don't think I fixed it yet. Yeah, I'm just trying not to wiggle as much. But yeah, so each of these NPCs will have little adventure hooks in them. To just, it's one of the things we try to do in almost all of this kind of engineering material that we do. The world of air is filled with hooks, engineering dungeons filled with hooks, just lots of hooks. Because, as you know, running games, especially when you run for 20 or 30 years or 10 years or whatever, you start doing the same stuff over and over. So it's nice just to get inspiration from wherever you can. So these NPCs will definitely have adventure hooks with them. Yeah, Ingolf, I have to say, I get excited about a lot of the projects we do around here. We try to do special stuff, but this book, for me, as a GM, as a CK at the table, this book will be invaluable because now I'll have just scores and scores. It's 3,000 personalities at my fingertips, and because I use NPCs so much, it's just going to be something that I use a lot. It'll be like the Book of Names. Now, Gary Gygax's Book of Names is at my table every night, and this will actually help me break my addiction to that because I'll have all these names, and soon I'll start just swapping stuff out as I need to. Of course, the engineering NPCs will allow you to roll stuff randomly, so that'll be really cool as well. Right, so I think I recapped. Oh yeah, so we've got. I don't know if I can get the image up here. We actually have, it should be out on Monday, we actually have a Halloween release this year called The Hanged Man. Zoe DeVos has done the cover, fantastic stuff. Davis wrote the adventure, kind of a tongue-in-cheek, cool little adventure. So we actually have a Halloween special coming out next week. Definitely look us up, check that out as I roll that out. But that's about it. I think that's it. Chuck, we got anything else we need to tackle? Tim usually reminds me of stuff that I forget. I'm sure I'm forgetting all kinds of stuff that we're supposed to be doing around here in the troll dens. All right, well, I think that's it for me. We went all over the tricks of the trade. Definitely sign up for the newsletter. We're working hard to get that thing out monthly. We've succeeded for 3 weeks in a row, and we've got next week's coming. So look for that definitely. In the meantime, keep on gaming, and sure appreciate everybody stopping by. You all have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. All right, how do I stop this thing? There we go. Bye, all.